Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Hi everybody, it's Dr. Gemma. Welcome back to the Cognitive Podcast here at episode 72. How's everybody doing? I'm recording this on Wednesday night, March 30th, and it's just really nice to be here. We had a cold, wet, rainy day on Monday, and my world has settled down and become very peaceful again, and I'm really enjoying that. Warm thanks to everybody who sent birthday wishes to my beloved son. He is indeed 16. It is indeed terrifying. Those of you who were present at the Cognitive Fiber Retreats may remember him riding on my shoulders when he was way, way tiny at the first one. And I believe I walked through Sunday morning or Saturday afternoon saying, "Admire my son, admire my son." It's unbelievable to me. That's the same kid. And we adore him. We did not get the silly string birthday we wanted because he's 16. He wanted to go to Magic Mountain and ride all the coasters. He and Dad did that while I was working a couple Saturdays ago, and I have to tell you, I'm deeply grateful, but I'm having these cravings to go out and buy silly string because we've missed 2 silly string parties, and I've just about had it with that. Cross your fingers, the beloved's birthday is coming up next week, and so I'm hoping we reestablish some silly string. In the meantime, love to Potchke, who asked where I'm getting my lovely soap bars for my hair, my shampoo bars, and the link is in the show notes to Chagrin Valley Soap and Salve. And in case you're wondering, you can find the show notes in our group on Ravelry, but also at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. In the show notes, you will find the usual stuff about the COVID vaccines. We are on a temporary break here in the States between variants, between Omicron and probably, I think it's BO2, the one they've got in Britain, which reminds me to send love to Anya Trike Somerton and her whole clan, who have had quite the struggle. I am thinking of you out here and loving on you, my British cousin, and just, rubbing the prayer beads and hoping it all works out for you. But if love and prayer over here in Southern California count for anything, you'd feel immediately better tomorrow. Speaking of such, you're probably saying, "But Gemma, what's on your hooks and your needles?" Well, nothing has been finished, but boy, am I having a blast this week. First of all, you're all wondering about my crocheted block project that don't know yet. Well, on we go. I think I announced last time that I have a size for it, 19 blocks by 19 blocks. The question is, do I have that much yarn for it? And am I willing to keep investing in more yarn for it? The answer is, I'm going to use up all this yarn and then look at what I have. And I may even pull out a few blocks to get extra crochet yarn to connect the blocks together. So I think we're not going to know until we know. However, in terms of the pattern, I have a great pattern for it. This is right out of my head. I just figured I was going to do a sunburst type of pattern. So the bottom left corner will be the darkest color I have, which happens to be black. And then I will have the colors radiating out from that corner, getting lighter and lighter. The interesting thing is what the proportions will be. It did occur to me that I could skip that black and just do it around the outer edge, because making squares out of black is not that much fun. However, I only think I have like 2 more, maybe 3 more skeins of the black, and I can always pull it out and use it for edging if I want to. but I'm not sure I have enough yarn. I haven't really sat and counted the skeins to see if I have enough yarn to get 361 squares without using the black. And I'm just having such a darn good time, I don't care. The important thing is that April 10th will be 100 blocks day. It's the 100th day of the year. Actually, I actually may have reached 100 blocks because I have made several extra blocks as I had spare time. But on April 10th, we officially celebrate we've got at least 100 blocks. The Nora Hart scarf is on hold, as is the Pennsylvania Dutch embroidery. They are just sitting quietly in bags by my feet. This is because my crochet world is taken up with the Don't Know Yet, and my knitting world is taken up with Twin Faces brick. I pulled out the already wound into balls and slipped into yarn sleeves Malabrigo Rios Cereza, and you can see a picture of the top part. This is just a plain old top-down, simple pullover sweater. That's what she's getting. That's all she wants. That's what she's getting. She announced this past week that she really likes the Pennsylvania Dutch embroidery, so she wants one of them. We'll see. And she's loving on her vest. And she said, "Ooh, you should just make me a lot more of those." Silly child. She's probably going to get a lot more of everything. You got to have somebody who likes your knitting, don't you? I am lusting after the Cereza. It's not quite a cherry red. I'd think of it more as a barn red or a very light colored cherry red, like a lighter species of cherry. But anyway, I'm looking at that and thinking I might need a vest in that. I don't think I need a brick sweater in that because I think my brick in Archangel, even though it's a purple and orange mix together, it looks like an old brick color. The impression you get when you look at it from a distance. So I just might need to do this in cherry red. However, I have to admit I am winding yarn into balls and slipping it into spare yarn sleeves as I free them up from the Don't Know Yet skeins. And I'm doing that in Malabrigo Rios Wales Road because I'm thinking, ooh, that would make such a good brick. The brick is astonishingly easy. Now, there are a lot of good beginner top-down sweater patterns out there. And I happen to like the brick because I don't want to do any texture work on the arms, which Tin Can Knits entry-level sweater does have. And it's a beautiful sweater, but I don't want to do that. I just want a plain pullover. And I want to really master it. I want to figure out the tricks and where it looks better and what I need to do. So I'm actually on, I think this would count as my third brick. I'm deeply, deeply enjoying it, and I'm eager to make a fourth. Thing is, when I finish the body, and I have measurements from Twin Faces vest for that, when I finish the body, then I'll just have these arms hanging there with no needles in them until I put the needles in them. And, you know, Twin Face is going to be a butthead about this. She's just really tough about returning this stuff, like when I mail it to her and have her try it on. She's really tough about measuring herself. So, you know what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to start the Wales Road brick, and I'm probably going to get to knit that the whole way through before she finishes with it. Those of you with good memory will remember that that's exactly what happened with the Mad Skills Mammoth sweater. That I sent Twin Face the vest, and she stalled on it, and I just said, I'm not waiting around, and I knitted my own second brick, which was my hand-spun brick, the Mad Skills Mammoth sweater. So I have this down. You start a sweater for Twin Face. She gives you a bad time about giving you the measurements you need. So you just do your own sweater in between. Works for me. Nothing much on Dizzy Blondes. I've got a pile of silk batting on my desk, and I'm thinking I need to hand spin it on a spindle. That trying to do it on my wheel wasn't satisfying. So we're thinking about it, but nothing going on there really. Strategy. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's go to emotional management skills. I wanted to talk about the ACT skills. ACT stands for Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. ACT is not a protocol. ACT is more of a philosophy. Essentially, what the guy who came up with it did was he did inventing therapy backwards, which is most people go out, they become a master therapist, they identify their own special tricks, they write it into a protocol, and they teach us how to do what they do. Hayes didn't do that. Hayes instead just looked at all the research and said, what brings people to therapy? And there was another good group, this is Stephen Miller's group, working on what makes therapy succeed and fail and what makes a good therapist. Hayes said, well, why do people even come to therapy? And he just collated a huge amount of research for like 30 years, and he came up with 6 factors that people are struggling with, and then he came up with 6 corresponding skills that go with the factors. And so I want to talk about the 6 factors, but what I really want to talk about is 1 factor and 1 skill. Now, Hayes draws these as a hexagon, and you can start on the hexagon anywhere. There's no first skill because this is not a protocol. This isn't first teach A, then teach B. I use dialectical behavioral therapy, which I think is the protocol that naturally goes with ACT. They were discovered, invented, developed, whatever you want to say, at about the same time on the same timeline. Yeah, I could go on with DBT and never miss ACT, but I like ACT. I actually like it. I took about 10 hours of training on it, and I really have been enjoying it because ACT is a really good thing to explain to your patients. When you're doing DBT, you start talking about mindfulness, and you sort of say, hey, take it on trust. To do all this stuff, you need mindfulness. ACT really gives you a floor plan where you can connect mindfulness to the rest of the skills you're teaching. So if you go into the show notes, there's a very beautiful colored star in there, and you can just tap on that and save it and download it. But those are the 6 ACT clusters. Now, I didn't download the hexagon, which is Steve Hayes' way of doing it, because I just think the star is prettier. One of these days I'll put the hexagon in there. So I want to talk about the ACT skills. Specifically, I want to talk about the healthy skill that is called thought diffusion as a means of managing your emotions. Thought diffusion goes with the problem cognitive fusion. And it's easier to start by describing the problem. When you're trying to manage your emotions, one of the problems you have is you think your emotions are you. They are not. They are a subset of you. Now, in the Cog-B world, we say emotions actually come out of thoughts, that you have a bad thought, and then your emotion reacts to it. We do know it can work the other way. We know you can just wake up happy and make all happy thoughts because you're having happy feelings. But most of the time in therapy, we're dealing with change your thinking, and you'll be able to change your emotions. So you look at your thoughts that originate your emotions. And the problem with many people who come to therapy is they believe their thoughts are them, are their real self. And so if they say, I feel bad today, they're thinking about bad things, and they think, so I'm thinking bad things, I am bad. The extreme, of course, is suicidal thought, where you're saying, oh, I'm so bad, I'm so rotten, I don't deserve to live, and you literally take yourself out of living because you say, I am that thought, I do not deserve life. The reality is your thoughts are passing. They are just leaves floating down the stream, as is one famous example from Zen Buddhism. You are not your thoughts. How do I know this? Easy to prove. If I get you drunk enough, you can't think straight, but you're still here. So you're obviously something bigger than your thoughts. I can turn your thoughts off. I can drug you. I can give you morphine, you fall asleep, no thoughts, but you're still here. So obviously your thoughts are not you. They are a subset of you, a part of you. And like all the other parts of you, you're in charge. You can control them. So my feet are a part of me. If my feet don't feel good, I can massage them. My thoughts are a part of me. If my thoughts are not good, if they're painful, I can massage them. I can change them. Okay, so the first mistake people make that leads to emotional mismanagement is they don't know how to manage their thoughts, and they believe their thoughts at face value. So you're having a bad day and you just say, oh, I can't win, I'm such a loser, and that's it, you're a loser for now and forever. So often you will hear people say, don't say bad things to yourself, because that is a form of brainwashing, that's quite true. But also behind that is this logic of be careful what you keep saying to yourself, because you're going to start mistaking that for being yourself. All right, so the important thing here is to have what's called thought diffusion. And thought diffusion is where you realize your thoughts are diffuse. That is, they spread away from you and they vanish gradually over time. No thought is permanent. So let me see if I can think of a thought. Oh boy. Well, I've had a pretty good day today. Oh, yeah. I had to go to a meeting today and I was just really down about it. I don't like these meetings. And frankly, I'd totally forgotten about that. That was a thought. It was passing through. The meeting wasn't so bad. And here I am saying, actually, I'm okay. And parts of the meeting were helpful. And I'm having different thoughts now. So if I thought, I hate these meetings. Meetings are bad. I am not a good team player because I don't like these meetings. None of that is true. The meetings are uneven sometimes, but they're perfectly good. And I am a perfectly good team player. It just happens that the meetings don't interest me that much. So thought diffusion is a healthy thing. It's where you realize my thoughts are just passing through. Now, if you're paying attention in DBT, some of you just said, well, that's kind of radical acceptance. Yes, it is. Ooh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's reality testing. I know this is only a thought. It's not a real object. I can just get past it. I can ignore it. I can throw it away. It's thought stopping. I can push my thoughts away. They're just painful, temporary things. I don't need to live by them. So you can hear a lot of overlap with the DBT logic here. The important thing to get is your thoughts are not real and they don't define you. People go through phases in life where they think different things. People get things wrong and they can outgrow that. So your thoughts do not define you. So the interesting thing, you can look at that and you can see examples of this all over the place. For example, COVID is a great way to look at it. I met a lot of people in the beginning of the quarantine who told me in therapy, it's not real and I'm not getting a shot. Now, if they were their thoughts, they would still not have a shot. But frankly, every one of them has now gotten shots because they've seen people near them get very sick. So the idea is, if you are fused with your thoughts, cognitive fusion, then you can't change your mind. You're too stubborn. You're too bullheaded. So, there were people who made quite a loud noise about how it was all phony and they got COVID and they died of it. And they still never said they were wrong. That's cognitive fusion. Instead of seeing the obvious like everybody around them was seeing, they're clinging to those negative thoughts, okay? So I'm not going to go into the politics. I just heard the word Trump echoing loudly in the background. You want to talk about cognitive fusion, but I'm just going to skip that. I'm going to move on to the fact that you can still find those links to help the Ukraine in my show notes. Put a lid on it. So I'm making things at home, and so this week I made a set of 4 tires for my car, and I'll be trying to... I'm just kidding. The real news is I'm replacing the tires on my car, and I spent this past weekend pricing tires, researching tires, figuring out which tires I wanted, and finally getting my tires so they get installed this coming Monday. What a way to celebrate the beloved's birthday. But no, I really didn't do a lot of cooking or making or experimenting this week. I am happily sitting around knitting on Twin Faces brick. And by the way, I'm halfway down the body. It's supposed to be 80 rows before you get to the ribbing. And I'm not fitting it at all. That's hopeless. And she can just live with it if it's narrow at the hips. Well, yeah, she can just live with it. I have to measure it, but it looks like it's pretty much on track. And so that's really what I've been doing, and I've been doing it at a happy, rapid clip. I have not been doing much in the way of exercise either. We've had high windstorms and a beautiful day of rain on Monday that was so great that I just sat at home, worked on various projects, and drank hot tea. Oh, it was so nice. So this leads me to say my fluffy books. This week, it was the PBS series, Victoria. I think this is from 2016 or 2017. It's Jenna Coleman, who was born to play the role, doing a bang-up job as the young queen. And it's slightly confused history. I mean, it has its pros and its cons. One of the cons, they had to fictionalize this sort of upstairs-downstairs world. And they're implying a lot of things about people trying to hurt Victoria that I don't know if that's strictly historical. I mean, I think it's very unreliable history. I think it's more of a dramatization. It's very good. I have to be honest, I didn't need the downstairs component. I don't care about her servants, what they're thinking, what they're doing. I'm just sitting through it. It's pretty much a soap opera. Albert is just terrible. The guy playing Albert is muttering into his mustache. Really just a milksop why anybody would talk to him. However, Jenna Coleman is a terrific Victoria. She really is the one to play it. The other thing is that there's been a lot of speculation that Victoria's mom and her mom's lover, Sir Edward Conroy, I think his name was, that they did all sorts of abusive stuff. This starts after that because it is very hard to know what was going on in Victoria's early life. It is obvious that her mom, who could not inherit the throne, she was a princess of Saxe-Coburg, it's obvious that her mom wanted to rule England through Victoria, wanted to be the regent. And the lover, Conroy, was doing this too. And so they were using her as their little puppet until she came of age. The interesting thing is she comes of age just at the time that her predecessor, King William IV, dies. And so she's of age. She can take over the throne without a regency, which she does. And there is a lot of stuff going on in the background that I would love to know more about, which is why I'm disappointed that this is not a reliably historical account. I'd love to see a really good documentary on this. P.S. Ken Burns, Benjamin Franklin on April 4th. I can't wait. I love Ken Burns, and I'm a Philadelphia girl, so I gotta love Ben Franklin. So you know what I'll be reviewing next week, right? At any rate, the PBS Victoria, I'm starting season 2. I don't know if I'm interested in it. Season 1 ends with her marriage to Albert. The Lord Melbourne part is really beautifully handled. And it's very, very interesting. And I like it a great deal. The Sir Robert Peel part, very well handled. Again, they get some things really nicely done, but you just don't know how accurate it is. But I enjoyed it as a soap opera. Something I really like, speaking of soap operas, Sanditon on PBS. Yes, it's Jane Austen's last and uncompleted novel about a seaside resort. And that's as close as it gets to Austen. After that, it's porn. No, it's not a lot of porn. But I must say, the first episode certainly implies a lot of rather racy, sexy things that are not in Jane Austen. And again, if you're going to this to watch Jane Austen, give that right up. If you want to see Jane Austen, heaven knows the BBC and Masterpiece remake the Jane Austen novels every 6 or 7 years. There's got to be at least 4 versions if you count the movie from the 1930s of Pride and Prejudice. So if you want to see Jane Austen, that's where you see it. However, Sanditon is a soap opera. It's just a Regency soap opera, borrowing a few names from Austen. And I've been really enjoying it. Tragically, the male lead leaves after the first season. So that kind of changes everything in season 2. And I like it anyway. What I miss, there are a bunch of hypochondriacs hanging out in the book. And 2 of them show up in season 1. And they renovate them in season 2. I really liked Arthur Parker much better as a hypochondriac, but I think that joke can only get you so far. But something I really like is Sanditon on PBS. There is their postcard picture of Charlotte Haywood walking away from the camera, admiring the cliffside. It is a lot of fun if you want a good Regency soap opera. On to the blather. Well, the pup date. Poor little girl, we neutered her. Now, actually, she was just wildly out of control. She was so hard to manage, chewing everything. And she came home, still the same way, but she's slowly settling down. The vet's comment on that was, raging hormones. Raging hormones don't go well with female border collie. I can't imagine a female Noof being this dreadful. She's 3/4 Noof, but let me tell you, a lot of border collie in that personality. Sharp as can be. Vet met her and said, "You do know your dog is a genius, right?" Yeah, we do. So she came home, and she was actually psychotic the first night. Then she literally had some kind of psychotic break on the meds. She didn't seem to know us. She was shivering. She was just really crazy when we got her home. And she crawled under the bed, displacing the venerable blankets, who grumbled all night long in a crate out in the living room because she didn't like having the puppy under the bed with her. The puppy is now 60 pounds. Blankets is about 75, so it's serious competition. But she slept under my bed, and the husband got tired of it and slept out on his couch. And so I had the bed to myself, listening to her moan and be miserable all night. So I woke up the next morning, and there she was, out from under the bed, lying on the floor at the foot of the bed. And it was like meeting somebody with a hangover. And she looked at me, and she looked very ashamed, and she wagged her tail, and she said, You do understand that I was stoned last night, and it wasn't my fault, right? And she came bouncing back to normal and celebrated by chewing a hole in the cushion of the divan end of our big couch. So that's got a blanket over it, which immediately stopped her from chewing it. For some reason, she just had to chew that. I can't figure it out. She kept going back to it. One of these days, we will figure out how to get that fixed. But right now, we're just getting through her teenage years, which are pretty rock and roll. But Captain is alive and well and okay and over the psychosis. Meanwhile, I decided to do my change of seasons 48-hour fast, and it went very, very well. This time I finally got a water fast right, because what I did was I defrosted all the bone broth, the chicken broth, and I made a big vat of it on the stove all day. Now, the way I do this is you go to bed after dinner Wednesday night. You have a good dinner Wednesday. So when you wake up in the morning, you're 12 hours into your fast. You're already 25% through. So the boys are away on Thursday nights. So I didn't eat on Thursday, but I drank chicken broth like there was no tomorrow. There's nothing in this. And I drank water with electrolytes. Usually I limit the electrolytes powder that I use, not this time. And it made all the difference. I went to bed feeling very liquid on Thursday night. Friday morning, I woke up reaping the benefits of a good fast. At that point, I was about 36 hours. And I felt so good. And I had a rocky night Thursday night. I was sweating and clearly going back into ketosis. And it was just rock and roll. My body was really grinding as it changed gears into fat burning, but it's been doing much better on the fat burning ever since. The reason I like fasting is after about 48 hours, my body seems to reset very beautifully into ketosis. So it can be a little rocky on the way, but it worked really well. And I feel great. And so at that point, you get through Thursday, and then you make it to Friday dinner. So Friday, I just spent the day drinking electrolytes in water and had a great day and felt really great by Friday night and had a really nice dinner that my husband made and got over everything. So that was the spring fast. I didn't weigh myself. I don't believe I lost weight. I don't care. What I want is to switch back into ketosis because I feel like I haven't been in ketosis routinely for a while. So Minerva gets the last word. And of course, if you look in the notes, there's a picture of Minerva and Eleanor. Minerva's on my desk and she's teasing Eleanor. And the expressions on Eleanor's face are truly memorable because Minerva is doing what I fondly call collie baiting. She's just up there teasing Eleanor. And Eleanor is on the floor, and Eleanor takes everything completely seriously. So in Eleanor's mind, this is her proving I am the chief dog here. Whatever you are, you can come into this room. I can't stop you, but I am in charge. So Minerva's last word is there is no party like baiting your collie. And you can see the pictures of her doing that right there. So, wow, this is a short episode. Not much is happening, as you can see. I'm just so relieved that the pressure is off at work. And, of course, this is the part where I tell you, please wear your mask, wash your hands, physically distance while you socially gather online, and get your vaccines. And we're in this kind of limbo here in America where everybody's ripping off their masks. My family isn't. We just made the decision. We all feel better. We got a new shipment of N95 masks, and we're wearing them. We just made the decision that the next variant is supposed to be nastier than Omicron, and we just don't see a reason to discover its arrival by catching it. Also, I have to tell you, if I never get the flu or another cold again for the rest of my life, I'm going to be A-okay with that. So what would I tell you to do about COVID? I would tell you to use your own good sense. I'm still in the place of little kids are not vaccinated. I'm sorry, I don't feel it's safe to be unmasked around small children. So I am following the protocols. I think the takeaway from all of this, though, even after the pandemic ends, is going to be, have we improved our social hygiene? Have we learned not to huddle together, not to crowd each other at concerts, to wear masks in public, particularly during flu season, to get vaccines? I don't know. I think there was so much good that could have come out of this pandemic and out of the quarantine especially. I think we could have made so many positive social changes that everybody would have benefited from. And, well, did we? I don't know. But at any rate, the point of all this is everybody please stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.